Welcome. What is up? Welcome to The Mixer, episode 107. Today is Friday, July 10th. Second episode of the week. We didn't quite get to everything we wanted to get to on the last one. So we're going to cover the rest of the topics today. Jeff, how you doing, buddy? Looks like you got a haircut, but you still got the beard going, so you still got that quarantine chic going for you. I like it.
Always. Yeah, man, I'm doing real good. Got out and golfed yesterday morning. So that was fun. Golf courses is pretty easy to stay away from people, right?
Yeah.
They do a pretty good job there. So got out, did that, shot a 76, which was nice. But yeah, I mean, overall doing really well.
Awesome. Good to hear. I hope everybody out there is doing well and that, everybody's safe, everybody's family's good, all that fun stuff. Before I forget, you can subscribe to us on iTunes, on Spotify, on YouTube. We are at FC Wine Mixer on all the social channels, well, at least the important ones. We don't have a TikTok yet, Jeff. I'm probably going to need you to get on that. I feel like it's better suited for you. I mean, China may have all our information after that, but we got to do these things for the brand.
All right, I'll get my sister-in-law to get on that. She would do better at that than I will.
FC Wine Mixer TikTok to come. But yeah, no, we're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Twitter's probably the best place to get a hold of us. I should get our email out there, but I don't have it right at hand. But anyway, thank you to everybody who has subscribed. I don't think we've gotten a review yet, so you can always review as well on iTunes or Spotify. We've had a pretty good bump in our numbers at the start. So I mean, still haven't heard anything from Hamilton about their streaming numbers. So might be first place.
All I have to say is expectation-wise, we probably won.
Are you ready to do the late night circuit?
Oh, I'm always ready.
Sweet. Yeah,
we need to hit Trevor Noah first.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so let's get into it. So wanted to start off with this week in the air is poison. So a lot of coronavirus news, and I know some people kind of I don't know, use sports as an escape, so they don't really necessarily want to, I don't know, to maybe be brought down with this information, but I think it's super important, and I think it's super interesting because it just brings light issues with society and the country in general, and I don't know, I feel like it asks a lot of important questions about just how the whole situation is being handled especially in the sports arena. So here are some updates. For baseball, there's a few players that have opted out of the season. David Price opting out, Felix Hernandez opting out. Those are the two big names. I've heard that Trout might opt out.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's a couple big names. Trout's obviously the biggest, but he has not opted out, but he's openly talked about not being sure about the situation.
Yeah. And I think Mookie Betts has voiced some uncertainty.
Yeah, and I don't think this person said anything yet, but I also heard a couple people speculating that Bryce Harper may not play because I believe he just had a child or something like that, which would make sense. That's one of the main reasons some of these pro athletes have opted out is a lot of them have like recently had kids and stuff, or they have someone in their like close family that's sick in some way, and they decide to opt out. So
yeah. A lot of important, tough decisions are being made.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be different family to family. And if anybody listening out there has, in the same situation, just make sure you do your research and, make whatever decision you have to for that you think is best for your family. I don't think there's any stigma against that right now. So those are the players who are opting out. For as far as the positives, they've had, I mean, these numbers have probably changed because I got them early in the week, but 31 MLB players and 7 staff have tested positive. Delino DeShields Jr., Tommy Pham of the Padres, Freddie Freeman of the Braves, and Salvador Perez, who's the Royals all-star catcher, have been confirmed as testing positive. In auto racing, Jimmy Johnson tests positive, 7-time NASCAR champion, and he missed a race. And much less known, but a champion in sports car racing, Felipe Nasser, he tested positive and missed the big race.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I believe both are back now, right? I know
For auto racing.
Yeah,
I know Jimmy Johnson's back. I don't know about the sports car racer, but I believe so.
Yeah, I know Jimmy's back, and I know he's had, I think, 2 or 3 successful tests since he tested positive in order to get back.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that I found like pretty important is like these guys can come back relatively quickly, right? Like Jimmy missed, I think, 1 race, right?
Right.
And it sucks to miss an event, but in light of what's going on, to only miss 1 event and then be able to come back, probably not that big of an issue overall.
No, especially, I mean, I'm not sure what the title outlook looks like for NASCAR. I don't know if Jimmy Johnson is contending at the front like he has been for years, or if he's kind of in the waning years of his career. I should shout out Jimmy Johnson, local San Diego boy, Granite Hills, I believe. So, good San Diego contact there. He's probably one of the few, title holders that call San Diego home. So, anyway, he's back. But yeah, I think everybody knows that this year is going to be weird, and it's more of the titles may be secondary. It's more of trying to keep up the normal routine and provide entertainment and get some victories along the way, however they come. So yeah, I agree with you there. Again, these numbers have probably changed. They've probably gone up, but 25 NBA players have tested positive, including and 10 staff, and they've had a 7.1% positivity rate, which is pretty high. The players reported on Tuesday to Florida. Did you see that? Did you see the shot I sent of their dinner, of their catered dinner? Man,
it's pretty rough.
Oh man.
Yeah, I think I have a feeling not everyone is getting the same dinner.
How are yeah, well, maybe. Yeah, you don't think LeBron is eating multi-grain Stacy chips?
I have a feeling LeBron somehow talked his way into having his personal chef as one of the team people. Because the teams get to bring a certain amount of people, and I have a feeling someone brought a personal chef or something, because there's no way these guys are going to be happy with that kind of food for the next 3 months or whatever it is.
If you haven't seen it, go look it up on Twitter. Just NBA Florida dinner or something like that, and you'll see it. It's pretty sad. It's the saddest looking.
Yeah, it just looks like a cafeteria lunch type thing.
Not even.
I mean,
if it was all pre-packaged, we have stuff at our work in a kiosk, a little refrigerator that you swipe your card and pay, that looks better than that. I routinely get dragged by my coworkers for getting stuff there because it just looks so terrible. I'm desperate. I don't got anything. I got a half-hour lunch. So anyway, yeah, really, really sad. I don't know how the bubble life is going to work. I mean, you had Stephen A. Smith I didn't actually hear it, but I heard somebody else report on it that he's basically making the case. He's like, what about if these guys get horny?
That's
He's
that's
like,
been a big
how
thing
are they
with the
going to be in a
NBA guys.
bubble?
Yeah, that was the big thing with the NBA guys. Like, how are they going to be able to perform without their normal roadies?
Yeah, yeah, they'll life finds a way. Uh, so yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Can't wait to hear the stories.
Oh yeah.
So that's the NBA. The NFL has officially announced that they plan to trim the preseason to just 2 games. However, Brandon McManus, who I guess is the player rep for Denver, he's Denver's kicker, tweeted that he expects it, he said expect something official to be 1 game. And then I've also heard now that they're probably just not going to do a preseason because
Yeah, that's. I
it's
was
all
gonna say I read that yesterday. Likely no preseason. And to be honest, the more we talked about this a little bit before we started, but the more I read and the more we see these other sports, right? Like it'll be interesting once the NBA and the NHL like get underway,
Mhm.
if they get underway. But like, if if for whatever reason the NBA and NHL can't go, then we're looking at probably no NFL season at that point. You know, if the sports before them can't figure it out, you know,
Yeah,
that's gonna be the interesting one.
yeah,
Um, also too, the NFL more than any other team. I mean, baseball has a lot of players, and the NFL has double on an active roster, right?
right.
So you're looking at twice as many people as baseball being in a small area, right?
Mhm.
And that's not even counting all the people that may opt out before
Right,
it even gets started.
right.
So,
There,
um,
there, there are a lot of variables,
yeah,
and you know, that again, that's why I find it super interesting. Is just how the whole situation is being handled. It's like a window into the mitigation, the control, and I mean, businesses all over the country are trying to do similar things, get back to work, and they're having to manage issues like this. And we cover sports, so this is the best way to cover it. Just a few more updates on the positives and such. So 26 NHL players have tested positive since June 8th. Again, this number is dated. And then there was a UFC fighter who was going to headline the UFC 251 main event. Gilbert Burns. His brother, and his coach tested positive, so they couldn't make the. Basically, he had to get removed from the main event. So
well, that one, while I am definitely sad for Gilbert Burns, right? But I have a feeling Dana's somewhat fair to his fighters, right?
mhm.
Like I think Gilbert, when healthy, will just come back and get a title shot. But we do get a little bit lucky because Jorge Masvidal decided to step in, was
Yeah,
asked, and on basically a week's notice is taking this fight,
yeah,
right?
that's this weekend.
That's this weekend, I believe.
Good deal.
He pretty much had to self quarantine immediately. Um, and according to Masvidal, he had to lose 20 pounds in like
Oh,
6 days.
gee.
So yeah, that'll be interesting. But I believe it's Usman versus Masvidal. I don't know if it's still for a title or not, but I imagine it would be because that's kind of how UFC does things.
Yeah. Is it the BAM belt, the the Rocks belt? Do you remember that? The badass MFer belt?
Yeah.
That was kind of ridiculous, but kind of awesome at the same time. So that's all the news on the positives. I did see a quote by Sean Doolittle, who is the Nationals reliever. I don't know if he's a closer, if he's like a setup guy. Danny could probably say, but okay. So this is what he said. It was pretty profound. He said that sports are the reward of a functioning society, and right now, because of the coronavirus and civil unrest. We don't really have a functioning society in the U.S. in my opinion. There are other countries like New Zealand who have kicked the coronavirus for the most part completely, and they're packing rugby stadiums. And I believe in Japan their sports are going on, Korea their sports are going on, and here it's obviously not being contained. We do have some other logistical issues that those other countries don't have, especially New Zealand. They're on an island. It's easier to restrict travel. And the cultures are different. And a lot of the just other countries are more, the people there are more used to kind of control, or they've had outbreaks before, so they know the importance of masks and such. However, until the country gets the epidemic under control, there's going to be problems with sports, right? Players are going to test positive, players are going to opt out. And there's just going to be issues. And, the player unions are probably going to have something to say about this in the long run. And I just find it super interesting. So that's why we're covering it. You have anything to add on that, Jeff?
No. I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. So, I did miss one thing. College football, the Big Ten has said that they're most likely going to just do in-conference games, and the Ivy League has already canceled all fall sports. So, sign of things to come. I really don't think college football is going to happen, but we'll have to see. There are a lot of people that want these sports to happen. So, it just depends on how things go. So I wanted to check in on soccer because there's been some good things going on. Pulisic has been on fire. He's looking like he was back when he kind of broke out in Dortmund.
Yeah.
I think he scored 3 goals in his last 5 games. He won a penalty kick that his teammate, I think it was Willian, ended up converting on, and has just really looked like the best player on Chelsea, which is a major Premier League team. So I know he had his struggles. The coach wasn't playing him as much at the start, but it seems like he's tearing it up. So
yeah, he's pretty much the best
USA.
player in the world at this point.
yeah. Might as well be. Messi scored a 700 goal. We're a Messi podcast, so go Messi.
I'm with you on that.
I think Ronaldo. We gotta. We're serious reporters here, so we have to do both sides, like the New York Times. We gotta check that box. And Ronaldo, he scored a free kick, and I guess it was his first free kick goal.
His first one in a long time.
Yeah, for Juve. So
he
congrats.
Ronaldo's amazing overall when it comes to free kicks and stuff like that. He's an amazing soccer player. For how, and free kicks are extremely hard, right? Mm-hmm. But for how good you see so many highlights of him hitting free kicks, and I think it's been like 3 years since he made one, till he made that one the other day. It was a long time. So congratulations to him. Glad he got that monkey off his back. He'll probably make one every game for the next month.
Yeah. The dam has burst. And Megan Rapinoe celebrated her birthday. Happy birthday, Megan.
Happy birthday.
So I mean, that's soccer. That's Bayern won, I think, the Bundesliga, but I mean,
the actual best player in soccer since it started back up again, Robert Lewandowski, scores like 14 goals a game for Bayern at this point.
Yeah.
Dude is insane.
Yeah, that squad is just ridiculous. I think Dortmund actually started the season on top for a while and then just kind of faded. That's too bad. Arsenal's looking really good, but there's like maybe 2 people that care about that. But anyway, soccer has been, I don't know, it's been nice to see. It seems like European soccer, at least, is the most functioning major sport right now.
Yeah.
So, um, so I mean, it does show that sports are possible.
Yeah,
So
and
in this world,
soccer's doing it without fans in the stands too, right?
yeah.
So, they're kind of used to that because of all the penalties from the racist stuff and the riots that happens over there. They play, games without fans in the stands way more often than any other sport. But it
Jeez,
is something that they are doing, and it seems to be working really well. So
good deal, good deal. So that is soccer. Checking on another European sport, F1 is back. Did you watch the race, Jeff?
I did not. So I watched a little bit of it. I caught it like fairly early, like lap 17ish, something like
Uh,
that, when it looked like Mercedes was gonna just finish 1-2.
uh-huh.
And then I caught it. I caught like the end. But I believe you're actually going to bring up one of the things I had a question about. So I'll let you get to that, and then I'll
Okay.
ask my naive questions.
Did you watch the last 10 laps or so by chance?
Just a little bit, not really a
Okay.
lot.
If you can, they have it on demand on ESPN. So if you have access to see things on ESPN, you can rewatch it.
Okay.
Um, the end was awesome. I woke up, I watched the start, I went on a run, came back, and then got to catch the last 10 laps. And um, there was I think there was a caution flag somewhat towards the end of the race, so Mercedes did get out to a big lead, but it kind of bunched the field back up, that caution
Yeah.
flag. And then it was basically a sprint to the finish. So what ended up happening was Valtteri Bottas was in the lead. He's the Mercedes driver opposite Hamilton. So it's Hamilton's teammate. Hamilton was in second. There was a Red Bull driver, Alexander Albon,
Albon.
who is new to the team. I guess he was on the team
Well,
last year.
I was gonna say he joined like halfway through. They swapped him and Pierre Gasly, I believe, last year, right?
Yes, you're
So
right.
yeah,
Yeah, hey, look, there's your Drive to Survive knowledge from
exactly.
Netflix coming
Look,
because I know that was a big storyline.
I'm catching
Uh,
up.
yeah. So anyway, and this is Red Bull's home track. It's the Red Bull Ring,
Okay.
is the name of the track, and they've won there the last 2 years, I believe.
Well,
With
and real quick, Red Bull Golden Boy Max Verstappen, which I'm gonna take this leap right now and say not a Max Verstappen
no, not a
channel.
fan, not a fan.
Max was the first one out of the race. I don't know if
Yeah,
it was his doing or not, but I know when I was tuned in by lap 17, he was already out of the race.
yeah. No, it
So,
was. I believe it was a
and
failure
yeah, I
of
was gonna
some
say I think
sort.
it was an engine trouble issue, but I know
Yeah.
he was out real quick.
Right. So his teammate is running third and he's battling Hamilton and he gets on the outside in one of the corners and looks like he's going to make an amazing pass. And then Hamilton just kind of drifts, hip checks him off the track, ends Albon's race. So it's a double DNF for Red Bull. So both cars out of their home race, not finishing. So it's kind of rough. So anyway, it's towards the end of the race. So since Hamilton caused a collision, they enforce a 5-second penalty. Is this what you're going to ask about?
Yeah, so my big question is really like so I'm used to in American racing from what I've seen like in NASCAR and stuff, if someone commits a penalty like this, right, or does something like this, if when they give them a penalty, they basically force them into the pit and
Uh-huh.
then kick them and then let them go, right? And
So
that's
that
the is
that
that
is an option. That is
okay?
an option for penalties. However, they try to they kind of want the punishment to fit the crime, right? So, um, they were racing. However, Hamilton did in that guy's race
Yeah.
and bumped him out. So, he needs to, in their mind, he needs some sort of some sort of penalty to prevent future actions. Basically,
Right.
they don't want drivers just like crashing everybody off the track. So if they were to do like a drive-through penalty, that's it usually takes about 10 to 15 seconds to go through the whole pit. So
Gotcha.
that would be a pretty steep penalty,
Okay.
especially at the end of the race. So they basically just, and then they've also in the past they've, usually something like this would be enforced after the race, but they've tried to be more proactive about it, doing it in the race, so that way the drivers can react to it. So
Yeah.
it was actually really, I think it was a really fair penalty the way they did it, and
Okay.
so they gave him a 5 second penalty, and that what that means is they add 5 seconds on to the end of his time. So anybody within 5 seconds of where he finishes leapfrogs him.
Right.
And so Hamilton's in second. This bumped up Leclerc. Leclerc was like 2 seconds back, so
Right.
he was going to get bumped up to second. That was pretty clear. There was a McLaren driver, Lando Norris, Canadian, I believe. So shout out to North American drivers that haven't won a race in forever. Maybe we'll get one this year. Um, he was in fourth, and he was like 5.5 seconds behind Hamilton. And so
Yeah.
the last 5 laps was him just like turning
Trying to
out,
get within the 5 seconds.
yeah, turning out like fast sector, fast sector, fast sector. And then the awesome thing about Formula One is they have so many, their timing is so advanced. I mean, it's like maybe every 1,000 feet they have an update, and they have the timing tower like on the left hand of the screen, and you could just see him like creeping a little bit closer, a little bit closer. And it was like the last corner he got, all of a sudden you see it go from 5.1, 5.0, and then 4.9, and then it's like that sprint to the finish, and he crosses, and he's like within 4.8 seconds. And then
Dang.
so he gets bumped at the third. It's a podium finish. He gets a trophy. It's the FC wine mixer win, getting third place. So the man takes on the bronze. It was pretty awesome. We unfortunately with Formula One, you don't get too many battles at the end.
Right.
At least not for not for first, not for second. So we'll take that battle for the podium. It was a
Yeah.
great race. There was a lot of other stuff that happened that was entertaining. The
Yeah.
Ferrari just looks terrible. I think Vettel finished 11th. I don't think he even got in the points. He
Oh.
spun at the end of the race, battling with somebody. He just looks frustrated. Leclerc getting second was a huge accomplishment. I don't know how he did it. That
Yeah.
car is just wiggling out of every corner. It's
And
bad.
and then I believe Mercedes has the team advantage on the season, getting a favorable ruling from the Formula One people,
Oh
right?
yeah, I was gonna mention that. So yeah, they were. So I mean, this is a little inside baseball, but the technology is crazy. So they have a system now where they can adjust the toe, which affects the way that the tires rest. So like a normal car, their tires are like this, right? They're straight
Right.
up and down. In auto racing, they kind of pinch them in a little bit, so they kind of
Okay.
basically it provides better cornering. But the problem is if you pinch it too much when they're going down the straightaways,
Yeah.
it's gonna wear that inside
Right.
part of the tire, and it's really going to degrade it fast. So they have to find a balance, right? And so what Mercedes did is they developed a system where basically the driver with the steering wheel can push or pull the steering wheel out, and then the tires adjust like this
Right.
on the toe. So in theory they can be like straight up and down on the straights so they don't get the
Yeah.
wear, and then they can pivot out in the
In the
corners
turns.
so they get better
Gotcha.
handling. However, I just don't know if the tech I didn't read into it completely, but I thought it was going to be a huge advantage. how they said that on the race broadcast that it would really only come into play during safety cars. So I guess during safety cars they can kind of tilt it out more, so that
Yeah,
way they can keep the tires heated up basically,
gotcha.
because it causes more friction if it's like this versus if
Yeah,
they're straight up and down. Um, so it's still an advantage, but it's not as huge of an advantage. I thought they'd be able to do it during the race, in that they'd just be going down the straightaway, they'd be pulling it out, and then when they're coming up to the corner, they would push the steering wheel in. But
right.
my guess is it's just the car's going too fast, and to make that kind of an adjustment would either require too much force from the driver actually doing it, because
Yeah,
I think it all has to be analog. I don't think a computer can be helping
gotcha.
because of the regulations.
Right.
Um, so I guess they're only doing it during safety cars when the cars are going slower, to keep their tires warm. So it is still an
Right.
advantage, but it's not as huge of an advantage as I thought it was.
Yeah.
The tech
Um,
is just crazy. So
I
if
do think, real quick, sorry to cut you off. In
that good,
regards to this, I don't think Mercedes is the only team with something like this. I was watching the qualifying on, what was it, either Friday or Saturday? I forget
Saturday.
which. Saturday.
Hmm.
And they were talking to the Red Bull, the head of the Red Bull team, because they were the ones who protested,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
And they were explaining like how protests work, and that like it wasn't a like it wasn't anything, although like there's obviously the competitiveness, it wasn't anything like personal towards Red
Right.
Bull kind of thing.
Right.
It was more of like, we don't have this yet, we don't think anyone should have it yet kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then they asked a question at the end of the Red Bull guy, and he hinted that they have something like this either close or in the works, and because they kind of knew Mercedes was working on it, so they
Yeah.
worked on it too. So I
Yeah.
don't know, like I said, I don't know 100%, but I would not be surprised if other teams didn't have this ready, or close to it.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of teams with money will be doing that. I'm curious if they're going to ban it, because again, the new regulations were set to take place next year, but because of the coronavirus, they're not. They're pushing it back a year. So in theory, they could at least use that system for the remainder of this season and next
And next
season,
season, yeah,
which a lot of these teams, the money is just ridiculous. So if it's two
yeah,
seasons, they would do it. If it's one season, I could see many of the teams just being like, all right, well, this season's done.
right,
Uh, no use improving the cars there.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, Formula One is crazy. There's like espionage. They teams will like recruit engineers from other teams to find out like the shit that they're working on. There was a big penalty levied against McLaren back when Hamilton was still on McLaren, where Ferrari found like they had I can't remember the exact details, but somehow McLaren got access into the Ferrari engineering information. I don't know if it was an engineer that provided that, but it was an espionage trial basically,
yeah.
and the FIA, the governing body of Formula One, handed McLaren $100 million fine, and the team really hasn't been the same since.
Right.
$100 million. Can you imagine like the Patriots getting $100 million fine?
Or the Astros.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's pretty wild. If you haven't checked it out, it's worth a watch. It's on early in the morning most of the time, so it's on
Right.
demand. If you just find yourself up and you want to watch something, just throw it on, learn about it, watch the Drive to Survive on Netflix. It's entertaining. The cars are really starting to look awesome. They've grown on me. The nose is a little weird. The very front, they have kind of like that dolphin nose that isn't aesthetically pleasing, but the rest of the car looks awesome because they're at the end of the technical regulations. So the engineers have had years to kind of explore where they can add little flicks and little winglets. And if you look at the car, there's just like little winglets everywhere, and they look crazy.
Right.
So anyway, the last time we had a good battle was at the end of a long time period where the regulations were set in place.
Yeah.
We've had these regulations in place for a while, so hopefully the racing will mimic the way it was 10 years ago, but we'll see. They race again this weekend at the same track.
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't it the same place? So
Yes. So
nice.
Give it a watch. I believe the race is 6 a.m. on Sunday Pacific time.
Right.
The only time zone that matters. Okay. Anything? Oh, I think that was it. Was there anything else? I know I mentioned some things to you, Jeff. Speaking of large amounts of money, Patrick Mahomes, congrats. He got paid $450 million 10-year contract extension on top of the two that he already had. So a total of 12 years that Mahomes is locked up for.
Yeah.
Making $500 million. Biggest contract for an NFL player. What do you think about? What do you think about his contract signing? Is it a? Good deal?
I don't know the specifics. I assume that Kansas City can get out of it after years like 6, 7, 8, 9, something like that, if they need to. But when you look at it, I think Mahomes is 24. If you add 12 to that, he's 36, right? You look at quarterbacks these days, Brady's 40-something, Breeze is 40, Rodgers is upper 30s, right? You have Big Ben, you have Phillip, you have Eli, who all played to 35 plus, right? I mean, if there was ever a quarterback you were going to do this with, it's probably Mahomes with what he's done in his first couple of years as a starter.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm never a fan of contracts that long because it's really hard to project out. Like, what if he gets hurt? Especially like, what if he has an arm injury? He's never the same kind of thing. God forbid. Like, we don't want anything like that to happen. But, I mean, if there's ever a guy deserving, like, to go MVP Super Bowl in your first 2 years as a starter, like, go for it.
Yeah. As a biased Charger fan, he's going to be in the division for that long, but I mean, I don't see a scenario where he wouldn't have been.
Right.
So, I'm happy for them. I do like the Chiefs. When I was kind of playing around with, at least mentally, with defecting to another team, the Chiefs were high on that list of possibilities with Andy Reid, and at the time they had Alex Smith, who is who's on the Redskins now, and on the road to recovery. I wonder if he's going to play. If you haven't watched the ESPN special, I think it's Project 11 about his rehab, pretty graphic images about his injury on there, but it's just really good.
Yeah.
So I recommend it to anybody out there that hasn't seen it. But back to Mahomes, I think it's the right call for the team. I know the contract is loaded on the back end, so I guess in theory they would be able to, when his contract doesn't cost so much, load up on talent in other positions, maybe get a few titles under their belt at the start, and then, pick it up on the back end somehow as well. So Chiefs dynasty, maybe, but congrats to Mahomes. Great player, fun to watch, and just seems like a good guy. So happy for him, even if he does sound like Kermit the Frog. So I guess my next big question is, players are making, elite players now are regularly getting these $500 million contracts. I remember when Alex Rodriguez, I believe, was the first player who got a $100 million contract, which doesn't seem like that long ago. You're a Yankees fan. What year was that? It was like 2006, 2007 or something?
No, I think it was like 01, 02. He went to the
Okay, that long
Rangers.
ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess it's taken almost 20 years to get from 100 million to 500 million. Um,
Well, he went it was 2005 actually. He signed a $252 million contract with the Rangers.
mm.
Is a 10-year, 252 million. So it's 25 million a year.
When do you
But
think the first $1 billion contract is going to be? You know it's coming.
um I mean, like,
And is that player playing right now? And why is it Zion?
well, in terms of like amount stated at the beginning, it
Mhm.
might be Zion. But
Yeah.
if we're talking about like like Jordan was handed $1 million contract or $1 billion contract. He just didn't know it at the time, right? Nobody really did with Nike. LeBron, from my understanding, has pretty much been handed that contract in terms of a lifetime from Nike, which is going to
Mhm.
equate to more than $1 billion.
Right.
Um, so I
I'm
think those
talking about
contracts
from a team.
from a team,
Yeah.
um, it's tough because teams are limited on years, whereas these like shoe companies and apparel companies can get away with like longer term stuff. But I mean, I still think we're a ways off from that. Like we're only halfway there, right? And that's on a 10-year deal. I think that in order to get there, football still has to grow, NBA has to grow, right?
Uh,
Salary caps have to grow. I mean, I think we're at least 15, 20 years away from something like that happening, to be honest. But it all depends on, I actually think it would happen quicker if sports left the cable world and moved to the streaming world fully.
yeah. Get that
Because,
Joe Rogan Spotify money that we're after.
yeah, I mean, you look at it, and the cable world is slowly creeping down, right? People are slowly cutting the cord. And the only thing keeping a lot of people is sports, right?
Yep.
So I don't know how much like an Amazon Prime I don't think a Netflix would be into it, although they might. But Hulu, YouTube TV, I don't know how much they'd be willing to pay for like
Hmm.
the NFL season. But if they got, I mean, I would be willing to bet if like YouTube TV got the NFL,
Hmm.
they're already raising their price to like $65, but they could raise it to 150 and people would pay it. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things that people would
Yeah,
just
just like
switch
the
over.
whole NFL.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll
Yeah,
see.
I mean, I probably tend to agree with you. It's at least 10 years away. However, I could see it being, somebody getting offered a 10-year, 15 or even longer contract, and somebody just wanting to uh, plant their flag, I guess, and make a statement,
Yeah.
um, that they gave the first $1 billion contract. And who knows? Maybe it's Pulisic when he goes to Barcelona to fill in Messi shoes,
Exactly.
or Bayern. But we doubt it. That's I guess that's a wrap for this week, unless you got something else you want to add on here. Oh, you saw the. By the way, I didn't ask you this, but we mentioned that the Redskins should change their name to the Washington Cornucopias. Um, and by the way, I say all these team names and all that. If you watched it, it's tongue in cheek. Like, I realize that they're like horrible names, obviously, and they may not be the most um, PC even, but that's kind of the joke, because their
Right.
owner's an idiot, and I just don't expect them to get it right. So, it's not that I actually think they're team names. I just think it's, representative of how dumb the owner is, and how
Right.
everything's been mishandled. So I didn't really make that clear. So I just wanted to get that out there. But so we did mention the Washington Cornucopias. Did you see that simulation thread
Yeah.
and you saw the Fruit of the Loom thing?
Yep.
That's
That's why I shared it
freaking
with you.
weird. That's weird. If you didn't see it, There was a Twitter thread, and we talked about the Mandela effect. That episode's out there. I think it's on our it's actually on our Spotify and YouTube. It's on our Spotify and iTunes. It's on our old YouTube channel. It was kind of the last episode we did leading into the Mixer now, where we talked about the Mandela effect and in simulation theory. It's kind of like a running joke, but anyway, it's basically the Mandela effect is like an edit that's made if this is a simulation. And so they were saying that the original Fruit of the Loom logo had a cornucopia in it, and then now it doesn't have the cornucopia in it, and there's like no record of the Fruit of the Loom logo having a cornucopia in it. I feel like I remember it having the cornucopia in it, but yeah, that was just brought to your attention the day that we had talked about the Washington cornucopias, which is more evidence that somebody's messing with you and I. Somebody's pulling the strings. So yeah, that was wild. Anyway, both of the people listening this long are like, what are these guys talking about? we'll have to do a part two. We'll have to do a part two at some point and loop everybody in, since we've grown a little bit in our followers. So that's it for this week. I hope everybody has a good and safe weekend.
I have one last thing. Everyone, I know not everyone watches golf. It's a great thing to put on like Saturday, Sunday if you're doing stuff around the house. The really fun part about golf is the interviews and the Twitter wars that happen. So for people that don't know, there is a player right now, Bryson DeChambeau, who is awesome. Like he's a weird guy. He's really smart. But he's very unique. He tries a lot of different things. He's very open about trying different things. Well, Bryson, I believe at the start of this quarantine, decided to put on 30 pounds because he wanted to hit the ball further. Okay. Golf came back. Bryson's significantly bigger, right? And he's just absolutely mauling the golf ball. Well, Brooks Koepka, who used to be the best player in the world, right? Still probably is when he's fully healthy, but then he got hurt, had to take months off, then the quarantine happened. He's still working his way back, right? So Bryson wins a tournament last weekend, okay?
The Travelers, right?
No, last weekend. The Travelers was
Farmers Insurance. I know, like
last weekend was the Rocket Mortgage Classic.
Okay.
But so Bryson wins, and then on Tuesday, Brooks tweets out a GIF of it's Kenny Powers confronts steroid allegations, and it's from Eastbound and Down. It's when Kenny Powers is with the Boston team, and he runs at the camera and like throws it down, right? Because he's pissed off. They're asking about steroids. It's a clear shot at Bryson, who says he put on 30 pounds of muscle in like 3 months, right? But this kind of stuff happens with golfers all the time. They take shots at each other, whether it's in interviews, whether it's on Twitter. And it's not just like average Joe golfers. Like we're talking about, like these two are top 5 in the world together, top 10 at the worst. And so I'm just saying, like, in terms of drama, in terms of like just sheer funness, like follow golf. It's fun. You get more interacting, and more like fun stuff happens with the pros. Also, if you don't know who the Foreplay Pod guys are, they're from Barstool. They are friends with Kevin Kisner, who's a top like 30 golfer in the world. And they play against him on a couple matches, and you get to see like what it's actually like with average guys playing against a pro golfer. Go check it out. It's real interesting. He gives a guy 40 strokes and beats him in less than 18 holes. Yeah, so go check it out. And I think if you guys are interested at all, I think you'll enjoy it. So it's one of the few sports that's actually active right now. It's another reason to watch it. So
yeah, definitely. I feel like the sports that aren't team oriented tend to the personality of the individuals come out more. Just as a product of maybe they're the ones that they're the only ones to focus on, but also I think a lot of team players kind of withhold their comments because they don't want to
Right.
They don't want to affect the team. But if it's an individual, they can joke around and do stuff like that. So there's a little bit of that in Formula One too. But maybe that's my draw into golf. That does sound entertaining and hilarious. Brooks fan here, so good deal. We will be back next week. We got baseball in 2 weeks, supposedly. Yep. Fingers crossed, I guess. So yeah, we'll have more stuff to talk about. Another Formula One race. We got to figure out our first gauntlet event. It's got to be good, but yeah, we'll get it out to everybody. Thanks for watching. Again, subscribe, like, all that stuff. Yeah, we appreciate you. We appreciate you guys. A lot of people are following the Facebook page, so thank you for that. But yeah, that's it. Unless you got anything to add, Jeff.
I'm good. Have a good day.
Have a good weekend, everybody. We'll catch you next time. See ya.
See ya.